Are you addicted to anime? It's a very interesting question we should talk about because there's no daily prescribed amount of anime, right? Doctor says max of 6 a day. It's not about that. It's more about a feeling that you can get. And whether you're watching YouTube or anime or TV, it's this feeling of I'm watching too much and I really should cut back. But it goes on. It goes a little further. Like, you got stuff to do. There's stuff you should be doing, but you just can't pull yourself away after 1 or 2 episodes. And that's an issue. It's an issue where that can't be easily solved by just quitting. Okay, you just can't. Just stop watching YouTube. I just stop watching anime. It doesn't be solved that way. So there's something deeper going on. All right, because see these addictions or this feeling that we're watching too much, that's not the core problem. All right, that's just a result of the core problem. That's the surface. Because if you follow the rabbit hole of just thinking about why you watch too much, if you follow that rabbit hole and you go down and dig deeper, you'll find a core issue at hand. And that core issue is different for everybody. I was addicted to YouTube for quite a many years, and I remember, it was like probably just one of the worst days of my life. I had spent an entire weekend watching this playthrough, PewDiePie. This was like 3 years ago, and he was doing this Japanese horror game, and it wasn't even a good game. It was just a really bland game, and just like gray and just ugly, and you took a picture, and it was stupid. I hated that game, but I couldn't pull myself away from it. I spent all Friday night on the computer, Saturday night on the computer, and then on the bed, and then Sunday all in bed, and just falling asleep, opening my eyes, falling asleep, watching this stupid ass game for 2.5 days. And I just felt broke. It was pretty sad, and that's what I needed. I knew I needed a change. But see, the reason that I got doing this, I was in South Korea. Okay, the problem wasn't this YouTube addiction. The problem was I was in South Korea and I was going to start, this new life, learning Korean and teaching English and hopefully, open my own school or business and getting married, and this big fantasy life I had. It banked on me learning Korean and getting fluent in it and getting really, really good at it. But that didn't happen, okay? Life has a lot of disappointments, and life is beautiful, but it's got also some disappointments, because I didn't know how to learn a language, all right? Back then, Korean was the first language I attempted to learn by myself. And anybody can learn a language, all right? You can learn the basics of any language. You can get an Italian textbook, Japanese textbook, and if you liked school and you were good at studying, you can open that book and do the exercises, and you'll learn the basics. It's really easy, okay? Like get your first 1,000 words and just learn conversational Japanese. That's pretty easy to do. A lot of people can do it. But it's when you get to the intermediate stages, if you don't know how to learn at that point, you will suffer, okay? You will just have a really shitty time, like I did. I've done a lot of crazy routines to learn Korean, but probably the stupidest one was on Saturdays. I used to take this train to Seoul and to do my language exchanges, which are a very good idea. But what's a bad idea is on these train rides, I had these flashcards I used to make, and it would have like an entire English sentence, like 3 lines long, just really long sentence, and then the Korean sentence on the back side. And my job was to read that English sentence and then recall word for word, verbatim, what the hell that sentence was on the back side, and it sucked, and it was stressful, and I did it because I thought I was learning, and I was learning, but it just made life shitty. Stuff like that. I used to do these exercises because there's a lot of information and words that you got to learn, and I didn't know any better. So that was, that I just didn't know what I was doing back then, and I couldn't learn. I had no fun at learning Korean anymore. It just became boring. It was very shitty. So how do you fix all this? How do you just fix things? So what do we need? We need a big change, and that change is a little bit different for everybody out there. For me, I had to pick up Japanese, a completely new language, and start all over from the beginning. And I promised I would do everything completely different than Korean. So that was just one thing, but it got me started on a series of changes that I needed to take, because in Japan, I'm in Japan, and with a new job and a new life and all these opportunities around me, and I got to go out and learn Japanese. This was 2 years ago. And I'm sitting there playing Hearthstone for like 8 hours a day, and of course watching too much YouTube. So I needed another change. That's like changes squared. And that got me into reading books, but I wasn't a big book reader, so I had to start with audiobooks because those were easier. And don't worry, this is not an advertisement for Audible. I'm not getting paid for this. This is just an invitation of a series of events that you could go on in your adventure. So those books got me into audiobooks, which got me into Brian Tracy, into self-development. And if you never heard of Brian Tracy, he's awesome. He's amazing. Like he just fills you with all these positive messages and this power, this self-power that you can do whatever the hell you want to do in your life. I tell you, it's a lot better than waking up with negative thoughts like shit, gotta go to work today. You can listen to a lot of positive stuff, and that led me into how to learn a language. And suddenly I was watching a lot less YouTube, and YouTube addiction was no longer a problem. So, what big change could you do right now? Let me know down below, and we'll see you next time.